Okay, at this time, I'm going to kind of walk you through, once again, how to create a scaled artifact that's compatible with our laser cut map that I chose for this project. Once again, we have an established scale of 1 physical inch on the map equals 61.583 feet of property. Okay, so first, obviously, we're going to be focused on Conard High School because that's the map. So we're just going to go here to Google Earth, and then you're going to do a search for Conard High School, and Google Earth will bring you to the property that matches what I've captured and created as the base map. Okay, so if you take a look here, we have a three-dimensional view that's rotating. So in terms of a couple usage techniques with Google Earth, if you're unfamiliar with it, you want to switch to two-dimensional view. So as you can see, my little circle here is kind of showing you. Click 2D because we want to take some accurate measurements, and if you measure in 3D, it's not going to be accurate. In addition to, we want to north point and make sure that it's oriented north so that it matches the map. Okay, so at this point, what I did to create this map was I did a screen capture, I threw it onto Illustrator, and then I drew some of the primary features of the map, including the roads. And at that time, I laser cut using the cut parameters, but with a low power, so it actually drew them on the cardboard. So once again, the scale that we're using is a scale that just happens to be what fit the piece of cardboard that I have, which is basically a 2x3. So you're going to ask yourself, when this is your opportunity, your time to do this, is like, what do I want to contribute to this map? As I said, there's going to be about 50 students adding to this three-dimensional scale map. I'm going to choose something simple for today, just for the sake of this lesson. But once again, my simplistic choice can be scaled up, no pun intended, to literally anything on this map. Okay, so what you're going to learn here is all that you'll need to know to do anything on this map. So I'm going to choose a house right here on this corner. Okay, so I know that this is on the map. Okay, I looked at the cardboard and I've recognized that this house could go right here around this intersection of streets. Okay, this is the east side of the campus here, and I want to measure this. So once again, I went to 2D. At that point, I pointed north, and then I just zoomed in. So there's some tools here on the left, and you're going to use the measurement tool. And you want to make sure your distance is in feet. Okay? So when you switch to feet, I want to know how big this house is. I don't have a height right now, so we can kind of generalize and pick an average height, and that should be more than enough because we're going to abstract out a lot of the details here. But I do care about the area that this is going to take up on the map. I wanted to make sure that it fits. It's not too small, it's not too big, it's proportional to the map that I've already made you. So let's find out how deep this house goes, from the front of the house to the back of the house. We're just going to click and release. As you can see here, I have 32 feet. If you get something with additional inches and things like that, you want to make sure that you convert your inches to feet by dividing the total number of inches by 12, because there's 12 inches in a foot. And you'll get some decimal that you can add to the integer value of your feet that you've already measured. So I have 32. So now I'm just going to press escape. I have 32 here. I'm just going to use Notepad because normally you'd probably write this stuff down. So I'm just going to say 32 feet by what? So I would normally write this down on paper. I want to record this so you can see. So let's just go back over here and figure out the width of the house. All right, I guess we could consider like from north to south if you want to think of direction, but I'm just going to go from one side to the other, and I'm at 58 feet. Okay, so I'm going to press escape, go to my Notepad, and just type in 58 feet, and now I have these measurements that I'm not going to forget. So what I want to do here is find out how big does that rectangle need to be drawn in Illustrator so that it can be cut using the laser and then added to the model, okay, added to this total scale model on the map. So we're just going to take our 32 feet and we're going to divide it by our constant with our scale here, and that's 61.583. Okay, once again, 1 inch equals 61.583 in terms of inches, scale feet on the map. Okay, so I'm just going to divide these. You're going to pull open your calculator. Windows calculator is fine. Okay, so we're just going to do 32 divided by 61.583. And at this time, I'm going to press enter. And as you can see, I have 0.519, a huge set of numbers to the right. We don't need to go that deep in terms of, I would say no more than probably 2 or 3 decimal places is really necessary to where we're at. So I'm 0.519. Okay, so I'm just going to say 0.519 inches is what I need to make in terms of that side of the rectangle with the laser drawn in Illustrator first. By, well, I'm going to have to do, once again, 58 feet divided by our scale, which is 61.583. Okay, so we're going to open up our calculator. We're just going to do 58 divided by 61.583. Now, if you're still kind of lost in terms of like why this matters and what this scale is, remember, 1 inch is going to symbolize or represent 61.5 feet approximately, right? So if you think about it, this house is 58 feet wide. That's almost 61, so it should be close to an inch. And if you take a look at my calculator, I'm at 0.94 inches. That makes sense, right? 1 inch equals 61 feet. Well, this is 58 feet, so it's a little bit less than a whole inch. So I'm just going to write this over here, 0.94. I'm just going to go 3 decimal places in, inches. So in Illustrator, I'm going to make a 0.519 inch by 0.941 inch rectangle, and that represents the house. Now I want to just take a look, one more additional detail. I'm not going to put this into the demonstration because it's just kind of a repetitive operation. But if you notice that this house specifically, I'm using my print screen tool just to show you, this house has like a higher floor raised right here. We're just going to represent these as rectangles. So I could create something that's measured here that would add as like another piece of cardboard that would stack on top of like the first 2 layers of cardboard. And it would kind of give it that semi-3-dimensional look. Now we're not going to draw the gables and the roof peaks and the angles and so forth. You can abstract out the chimneys and the cars. If you really want to do a car, it's going to be tiny, right? Because most cars aren't going to be 60 feet long, and that's just an inch. So these cars are going to be smaller than an inch, smaller than 1/4 of an inch in width. We can probably just not do the vehicles unless you've done one and it looks like it should belong on the map. That could be experimental. But anyway, the point of me bringing up this red rectangle here is just basically to say, in addition to the rectangle I've just measured out and figured out how big, you can do this to one more here if your house has a couple different stories and then stack different areas. This looks like there's probably an upper story in the center of the house, but if you go, let's say, to the north or the south side of the house, there's probably only a single floor. Or maybe there's just a vaulted ceiling in here. I've never been inside this house, but we're kind of understanding the process, not trying to do the entire thing, okay? So now if you already have, once again, your measurements, I know in Illustrator I gotta make this because I did my math. I'm giving you this number, and we're not doing any complicated math here, right? We're just dividing a number. So I'm gonna go over to Illustrator with my numbers in mind, and I'm just gonna do File New. Remember, I'm making something that's smaller than 2 inches by 2 inches. So honestly, how big your artboard is really not that important. 24 inches by 24 inches is obviously more than you need, so we'll just say okay. And now I'm going to go over to my rectangle tool, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th tool down from the top. I'm going to hold down my mouse, and you're going to see that there's other options. So you might see the 8th tool down as the polygon tool. So you want to hold down your mouse and make sure you select the rectangle. Once you've selected the rectangle, this is a click and release operation. You are not clicking and dragging. You are not doing this, okay? What you are doing is just clicking and releasing, and you should see a prompt that asks you how wide and how tall do you want this rectangle to be. Hopefully, your units are set in inches. If they are not, and you see points, PT, not that this is a graphics class, but there's 72 points to an inch. It's a measurement system that traditionally is being used by graphics. If you see a PT, you could erase that and type in your unit, IN, and it will force it to inches. It might then later show you the represented like number in points, but you know that if you type in the unit, you'll get that unit, okay? So what I'm going to do in Notepad, just to pull up my notes, this is representing a piece of paper that you'd have on your desk. I want to just type in, and I don't care if it's the width or the height. They're interchangeable because you're making this cut out, and you're going to put it on the board the way it needs to line up. So it doesn't matter width or height at this point. So I'm just going to put in 0.519, 0.519, oops, inches. And you have to make sure you put the unit, because 0.51 points is pretty small. And then at this point, sorry, I'm going to go and grab 0.941. So 0.941, and you say okay. Oh, sorry, inches, IN, say okay. It's tiny. That's what you have to cut out, all right? But before you do, you should also have your name on here, okay? As every student adds one or more objects to the board, you want to give yourself credit. The way I'm going to grade this is I'm going to take the physical map, and anything that's on that board, that's where your grade's going to come from. I'm not going to look at anywhere else you're going to turn it in. So if you make something and forget to put your name on it, you're not going to be around when I grade this, and the problem is I'm not going to know whose it belongs to. So this is a really important part that you want to understand, how to put your name on something. Also, for other reasons why you'd want to use the laser, you'd need to know how to use type with the laser. Now this is specific, so if you're not in my class and you don't go to Conard High School and you're reading this or listening to this in another year, this might be different for your laser equipment. So at this point, I'm going to open up my type tool, right? You can press T on the keyboard for a shortcut. And just like Microsoft Word, you're just going to click and release, and you're going to see a bunch of word processing tools at the top of your Illustrator environment. You'll see font, size, alignment, and all this other stuff. I don't care what fonts you choose. You probably something that's not crazy fancy, something really simple and boring. I'm going to use probably, I don't know if Arial's here. I like Arial. And at this point, I'm just going to type in Mr. Truss. This would be obviously replaced by your name. Just type it normally. Now, ordinarily, you'd think that's all that you would need. This is why I'm showing you. This is not all that you need to know. So once you have your text, and you can apply this to making signs or whatever else personally if you decide later. So once you have your name, and you like the font and you like the size, Illustrator needs to draw this. And this is something that a lot of students don't know how to do yet. Okay? So have your text highlighted. Click on the type menu that's over here. With it highlighted, make sure you click Create Outlines and pay attention to what happens over here when I click it. I'm going to zoom in so that you can kind of see this action happen. But currently right now we have ASCII text. Okay, when I press a letter on the keyboard, there's a binary symbol or a binary string that's associated to that. It's correlated to a chart. That chart automatically knows what letter it belongs to, and then a typeface that's loaded in your font folder will pull it up. So this is not artwork. Okay, this is an ASCII type. We need to convert it to artwork. If I were to give you the pen tool and ask you to draw this would be really difficult and it wouldn't look as perfect. So we're going to have Illustrator draw this for us. So we have it selected, and we're just going to go over to Type, and we're going to go down to Create Outlines, and watch what happens when I click it. You're going to see a whole bunch of anchor points as if it were drawn by somebody, except we didn't nearly have to do as much effort, right? I can click on the Direct Selection tool, move out that R. I could click one specific anchor point and change some specific part of my lettering. That's not the intent of this demonstration. I just want you to understand that I couldn't do that ordinarily just by typing my name the way I did initially. You have to convert it to outlines, and once again, it's in the Type menu, Create Outlines. If it's grayed out, you don't have your object selected, or you've already done it once. You can't do it more than once. Now the laser can cut this out. It can scan it and burn it in. It can do whatever you want. So at this point, you can highlight it, and you can change its size by holding Shift and then dragging. You can flip it upside down, make it look like a reflection, or whatever is necessary. You then can rotate it if it fits better. And remember, your name is not the primary focus of this. I just need to know it was you. So make it fairly small, and then just pop it on your artifact. This is what gets saved and brought over to the laser station and then cut and burned. Okay, so I'm not going to go over those concepts at this point with this video, but I got you to the point where this is the right size that if I were to cut it out in cardboard with the laser, it would then represent on the piece that I already made, the map, it would represent this house. So then you would physically go over to the map and glue this down, and then you'd have credit. So we have hot glue guns and a variety of other adhesives over there that you can use. So maybe you'd pick a different house. Maybe you're going to pick the possibly the basketball court. Maybe you'll pick a couple dugouts here. Maybe you'll do the baseball diamond. Maybe somebody does the north to south third floor type of section of the building here. Someone else does the solar panels, and then someone else does the east and the west wing here. You'll create multiple stacks of the same piece of cardboard to create some sort of vertical height. Right now we have 1/8 of an inch in terms of thickness of cardboard, so we can kind of correlate what's 1/8 of 61 feet, and that's how much height it would represent. So with that being said, I'm done with the video. At this point, you would obviously save this, file save as, save this on your flash drive, and then bring this over to the Illustrator or the laser station, and then cut it out. Okay? So that concludes my video. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments or reach